Yorkers elect a communist to office in the world's center of capitalism. How dumb can people be? Does it matter? And who really cares? Today on The 10th Man. The Democrat Party continues to amaze, or then again, are we surprised? Are we past being amazed at anything the Democrats do? And at who women, unfortunately, and people of color will vote for? Zohran Mamdani is phenomenally unqualified to be the mayor of New York City. Anyone listening to this podcast is probably more qualified. He's 34 years old. Nothing wrong with that. I used to be 34, but I didn't think I could be mayor then, and he has no experience. He went to the New York State Capitol just 5 years ago as a 29-year-old. He accomplished nothing while he was there, and now he's elected mayor based on his promises to do everything but the jobs that a mayor is supposed to do. A mayor should be interested in the general welfare, the welfare of the city, all the constituents, including law and order. But as a socialist, his campaign focuses on class warfare and division in a time when we probably need unity. His theme is to just tax the billionaire. Very popular theme, but misleading. And yet, we don't care anymore. Nothing surprises us anymore that comes out of the Democrats or out of New York City. New York was bankrupt before, and the Democrats think men are women, and they think fat people are starving, so electing a communist to be the mayor of the center of capitalism, no big surprise. When I was a kid, one day in the second grade, our teacher started reading some books to us. It was The Little House in the Big Woods by Laura Ingalls Wilder. The second book was The Little House on the Prairie, which became a TV series. I actually read all the books, and one of my favorites was Farmer Boy. This was about the childhood of her husband, Almanzo Wilder, in New York State. They describe the Wilders and their life on the farm, and they take care of their cattle and their other livestock. They feed them. They keep the barns in good repair. Mrs. Wilder separates the cream from the milk, makes butter, and sells that and eggs in town. The skim milk that is left is fed to the hogs, and then there's pork in the smokehouse in the fall. Now, if Zohran Mamdani moved to New York State in the 1800s, I suppose he would have attacked the cows on the Wilder farm, and he would ask, why are they being pampered with all the best feed and with shelter and with bedding and straw? He would have told the Wilders that they were being exploited by their bovine taskmasters, ignoring the milk that they give. That's exactly what Mamdani is doing and has done in his campaign in New York. I've been to New York City, and there's no packing district anymore. There's all people living there. There's no garment district. The whole city is devoted to capitalism, to investments, to banking. It's the largest capitalist city in the world, made wealthy by capitalists or the underlying industries that they invest in. Everyone's job and the wealth and their very being there depends upon the capitalists. And yet, that's who Mamdani is attacking. And who's buying into this ridiculous story? Yuppies, feminists, and immigrants. Don't you wonder what kind of letters the immigrants must write back home? Well, I got out of Senegal, but here in New York City, it's far worse. I'm being exploited here. And they talk about yuppies buying a house at age 40. Even if you get into a house at age 40, your chance at generating the mythical generational wealth that magically comes from owning a house, I guess you've never lived any place where housing prices went down. You're not going to accomplish much by buying at age 40. And New York City might be expensive, but you see, we'll do a podcast on this principle because the universe is capitalist and there's no avoiding it. And New York City may be expensive, but you know why? Just because. It costs what it costs. Whatever it costs is what it costs, and somebody's going to pay it. And costs go up or down with supply and demand. Some of his bogeymen are the landlords. New York City may be expensive, but you know what? Costs are whatever they are, and that's what you have to pay, along with supply and demand. But if Mamdani really thinks landlords make too much money, and if you agree with that, and that the state should be the housing provider, oh, you want to own the means of production? Well, in capitalism, you can do that. It's easily accomplished. All you got to do is invest in a real estate mutual fund, a REIT, real estate investment trust. You can get rich quick that way. If you believe that, just go look it up. Go Google it. Go see how REITs are doing. Because it's very easy to profit from the means of production under capitalism. But the people complaining, they don't want to take the risk. It's just like the story of the little red hen. Nobody wanted to help the little red hen plant the wheat, harvest the wheat, bake the bread. But everybody wanted to eat the bread afterwards. Or you can take my advice and go invest in a real estate investment trust. Because the landlords are the little people. You can be one of them. Landlords are some of the little people that he should be representing, but he's exploiting. And you want affordable housing? There's plenty of affordable housing out in the suburbs, out in the counties. Or move to Detroit. Go to Kansas City. Go to Oakland. All across the country, you can find affordable housing. If you value this kind of straight talk, please subscribe to The 10th Man, and above all, tell a friend. Because as much as I appreciate you, I need this channel to grow as well. So let's talk about how Mamdani got elected. He did not get elected through Democrat support. No one endorsed him. You know, most of the nation's billionaires support and fund Democrats, but not this time. But another billionaire and former mayor, a Democrat, Michael Bloomberg, spent $1.5 million against Mamdani. Another one, New York real estate mogul and President of the United States, Donald Trump, campaigned against Mamdani. Now, these are the people who built New York City wealth and jobs, whatever you might think about them. And when Trump and Bloomberg are on the same side, you know the opposing candidate is a problem. So the way he did get elected was by making promises to the ignorant, to people who don't think things through, and by making a pledge to the Social Democrats. One woman said, "It feels like hope." This was Michelle McSweeney, age 44, who cast her ballot, and she brought along her 2 children and said, "I don't think I felt like this since Barack Obama." So people feeling giddy and voting their emotions, that's how he got elected. Now, Mamdani did say, hope is alive, so Obama is a good comparison. Or actually, that was Jesse Jackson, wasn't it? But Mamdani promises to make buses free, which will merely provide another venue besides a subway for homeless thugs to terrorize women, like McSweeney. Because the subways are effectively free, people just board them without paying. Mamdani promises to make New York City more affordable, especially by providing free childcare. Well, isn't that interesting? American women are only having 1.6 children apiece. That's far below the replacement rate. And they won't care for those kids themselves, and they're unwilling to pay the people who do care for them. They're unwilling to pay those people. Now, it's a shame because Zohran could be the most popular baby boy's name in New York, except the people who elected him aren't exactly having kids. And yet, daycare providers are among his constituency. He makes a list of all the small business owners that he claims to support, but daycare providers somehow end up among the villains. Apparently, all the people who deserve a living wage, that doesn't include the daycare workers. So how can you say everybody needs to be paid enough to afford the necessities and then complain about the cost of those necessities, like childcare or rent? Well, unfortunately, that's just classic hypocrisy and a lack of awareness that the money has to come from somewhere. He's also campaigning based on housing prices. It's expensive to live in New York City? Well, yeah, it's also expensive to live on the moon. That's why people don't live there. Studies show that half of New York residents can't afford to live there. And yet, they went there on purpose. The people who voted for him are immigrants. They weren't in New York City. They went there. At the same time, a lot of African American families who recognize they can't afford there are solving the problem by simply moving. Now, Mamdani's a socialist, but what they forget is that under socialism, you don't get to make such choices. That's what socialism is. The government makes all your choices for you. And you're angry that real estate prices are rising? Try living in any of hundreds of other places and times while real estate prices were collapsing and see how you like that. Because real estate prices only increase when New Yorkers are willing to pay it. You created your high prices. And all the outsiders just laugh because socialism always fails. Most Americans have customarily and traditionally known this. We've been taught to rely on our own toil and sweat, but there's unfortunately a new generation of Americans and immigrants who are taught to hate America and to steal from it. And when people believe they can vote themselves money, Alexis de Tocqueville predicted this and told that it's right to vote themselves money, then that's what they will do. Mamdani is just like Ilhan Omar or AOC or any of the other members of the squad. He's young, flamboyant, media savvy, inexperienced, and ignorant. He'll do whatever he's told to do by the puppet masters of the Democrat Socialist Party, and that is how he got any support at all. He got some name recognition by himself, and then he signed on with the Democrat Socialists, and they will support anybody that will support their agenda. And like the others, Ilhan Omar calls Somalia her home. Mamdani is a legal citizen of Uganda. Now, as a Muslim, he knows the Bible says a man cannot serve two masters. Which country is his? And why on earth would you elect the citizen of another country to run America's largest city? Mamdani wants to defund the police. He should be in favor of law and order and supporting the general welfare. But he wants to defund the police, and he's proud that he was arrested for rioting, like the other members of the squad. But the biggest scandal is the one about financial support, because Mamdani had none of that either. The biggest fundraiser in the mayoral race was Eric Adams, but he had to drop out for a lack of funds. He raised more money than anyone else, but he had to drop out. Now, why is that? Well, New York City the government thinks corporations and PACs are automatically evil. So what you do is you get a few thousand people to give you a few bucks apiece, and then you exploit a loophole, because while Mamdani scoffs at money, the liberal Democrat government of New York gave Mamdani more than twice as much money as Eric Adams raised himself. Eric Adams raised $6 million, over $6 million. The city of New York gave Mamdani more than $12 million. The individual who raised the least amount of money received the greatest amount of money. That's a fact. A lot of people like to point back to the Russian Revolution, and it actually wasn't a revolution, it was a coup, because there were going to be elections, but before the elections could take place, the Bolsheviks took over. Same thing here in New York. It was supposed to be an election, but it was actually a cash coup. Now, how's the Democrat Party reacting to all this? Well, the Democrats' problem is they want to be the cool parents. They want to be the fun parents. You see, none of them are in favor of Mamdani, but they want to act like they're in favor of the little guy. So they go along with any program to give away money just to be the fun parents. And the Republicans step in and put the brakes on, and the Democrats go, thank goodness. Thank goodness what I voted for did not get passed. Well, this time the Republicans couldn't stop Mamdani. There was a decent Republican candidate and an independent to split the vote, and the result is Mamdani won. So now the Democrats are distancing themselves. Would you like to know why the government shutdown finally ended? The only possible explanation is the timing. The Democrats don't want to be identified with Mamdani. If they had let the shutdown continue for another week while Mamdani is celebrating and while they're celebrating other Democrat victories, that would cause all the Democrats to be associated with this communist. So you can thank Mamdani for ending the shutdown. The Democrat reaction is also apparent when you look at Mamdani's attempts to achieve his goals, because the city council, the state government, and existing state laws are not going to allow him to achieve them, because ultimately you have to pay the bills. So are there going to be little old ladies mugged on the free buses? I doubt there's going to be any free buses. He says he wants to tax the rich. That's ironic in the world's richest economy. Rich always means someone else. So Google this. I did. Google, do the rich pay their share of taxes in New York City? And here's what I got. This is a quote. The wealthiest New Yorkers pay a disproportionately large share of the city's income taxes, with some estimates suggesting the top 1% of people pays over 40% of all city income taxes, and the top 10% pays about 2/3. So 90% of the people in New York are only paying 1/3 of the taxes. Now, how could you possibly tax the rich anymore? People are already leaving New York based on this number, and he wants to tax more. So ultimately, Mamdani is just like the student body president at a high school. He campaigns and makes promises, but his promises are empty, and his election was basically a popularity contest. Now, moving forward, I'm not sure what would constitute a win for Mamdani. It would be him fighting to get his policies and then failing to get them, then he can blame someone else. That's what he will do. Or he does get them and he fails that way. Because socialism always fails. The universe is capitalist, and socialism can only exist in a closed system. No one ever moves into a socialist country and takes over to obtain its wealth or its means of production because they don't have one. And no one ever flees a capitalist country to go to a socialist one. Now, New York City is going to be a unique experiment because anyone is free to become socialist, and this seems to be what they're voting for. You're just not free to do the reverse. And you never see three deadbeats getting together and saying, let's combine forces and be socialist. Let's share everything. You never see that. What you see is three deadbeats getting together and saying, let's go take over some other people's stuff, and then we'll call that betterment for all or something else. So here we have all these workers, the backbone, the immigrants, the bodega workers, the taxi drivers, etc. They're all somehow being exploited. And so by taking over the rich people's money, except the rich people will leave. However, even after the rich people leave, I'm sure that under socialism, the people left behind will thrive because socialism is so much better. That's how it works, right? Well, whether he achieves his goals or not, the outcome will be bad for New York. The population growth definitely is already in jeopardy just because of the chilling effect, and you need growth, not stagnation. But all these developments show that America is in danger, and we need to change election law so that people who are not invested in America do not automatically get the right to vote just because of some legal technicality. We have to have laws that work for America. You know, nowhere in the Muslim world, if I can call it that, or the communist world, or in the Asian world, will you ever find a white American female Christian capitalist being elected to any public office, let alone to the mayor of the largest city in the country. Now, everybody's welcome in America. We welcome them, but they're welcome to immigrate, become citizens, and to assimilate. You're not invited here to take over, and especially not to take over having un-American attitudes. Ultimately, Mamdani is going to be unable to deliver on his promises, and he'll just blame someone else, because that's what they do. Here we have the left electing a Muslim while complaining about Islamophobia and Christian nationalism, and yet Christianity invented freedom of religion while Islam still embodies complete religious intolerance. It's a problem when we have people who vote their feelings, their nationality, and their immigration status. If they do that, they should not be voting. You know, nothing says democracy like having 100,000 Muslims coming to America, voting for the first time, and marking their ballots just exactly how they were told to do at the mosque. I want to go back to my farm analogy and imagine the Wilder farm after Zohran Mamdani takes over. All the calves, which should have been raised to be the milk cows of tomorrow, they were sold for meat because they ate too much. There's no more manure to enrich the fields, so the cows are giving less milk, and Mamdani then punishes them by cutting their feed. There's no butter and no eggs, so now Mamdani is just scanning the farm next door with its green pastures and trying to figure out how he can take it over. Maybe he'll succeed in taking over the whole county. But one day he'll run out of lands to conquer. And when that happens, well, that is how Rome fell. And that is how the Soviet Union broke up. Now, if Mamdani makes New York City thrive, then all the other farms would want to join him. But we're not betting on that's happening.